I'm getting slightly too lazy for these introductions. Too lazy to be doing timestamps and all that meandering. So it's sometime towards the end of the year, I guess. By the time you're watching this, we should be on TV, radio, billboards, whenever, whatever. I don't know. The movement has begun. And so, yes, this is what I do look like, and this is what I do sound like when I am recording. Noya sent me something at some point recently, about how people like to gas the whole voice thing, how relaxed I tend to sound when I'm recording an episode, especially when I did Fortify Yourself, I think. And if you know me well enough and if you know me in person, then you'll know that this is what I sound like sometimes. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the sesh. By the time you hear, I think I'll be putting this one last for a bit. Let me not jinx it, at least before we you know, get into a new wave. As at the time you're watching this, I think I should have put up enough content to satisfy the general public, the general populace, I guess. Everybody should be happy. I have in the studio with me Sumbo. Shout out to Sumbo, man. That's a soldier, that's a true warrior. And damn it, who should be enjoying his weekend. But I don't know, for some reason he's here helping us with these things. So yeah, shout out to the gang. Shout out to all the sponsors. Shout out to everybody who's a fan, everybody who's pledged allegiance of some sort. The radio thing was a vibe though. The radio thing was a vibe. I remember being in the studio, you know, and I'm bringing this up because I want to juxtapose something. You understand? For the interview, it was funny because they kept asking, or for the people who tuned in, or the people who don't know, at some point this year I was on radio Unilag 103.1 FM, and it was interesting because they kept trying to juxtapose the radio versus broadcast versus podcasting, right? And I thought it was funny because I've particularly never considered myself to be like an on-air personality, quote unquote. I've been rubbing my hands like Birdman this entire episode. It's crazy. But anyways, and I find it hard to see myself in that light. Do you get like I'm just regular schmegular. So there's that. But then I think he asked at some point, what's it like to be a creator making content? Which is what he was implying that I made content. And if you've been listening to the pod, you'll know that I have a problem with that word in particular. I don't like the fact that we call the things that we call art content. I don't like the fact that, we don't know the difference or that people assume that because you create content, it means that you make art. You catch me? I feel like the difference is in the recipe. Bear with me now. What is art? You know? Shout out to Lima Carey, by the way. I don't know if you guys know. She's the founder of BL Brand. And I've known her for quite some time now. I'm name dropping, obviously, but I've known her for quite some time now. And I've always been appreciative of the fact that, excuse me, I've always been appreciative of the fact that she's been a go getter, a hustler, right? So this year she's been releasing like a couple pieces, right? I think she's done like two or three as at the time that I'm recording this. And her latest thing, her latest piece this year, depending on when you're watching this, depending on if she has new stuff out, it's like this jersey thing that's like supposed to represent Africa, Pan Africanism, stuff like that. I don't know, I might be gassing it too much. But yeah. And I remember thinking initially that like, she'd been doing the rounds, the marketing process, all that, stuff that Twaka is too proud to do. She'd been doing that for some time now, and I remember thinking to myself, "Well, that's nice," because I put it in the box of content, the videos that she did, that she'd been putting out. Pardon me. And then she released a video, like the official, promotional video, I think, for the merch. And I didn't know there was so much depth to it, and I sort of felt ashamed of myself, really, because you know, the when it's on Instagram, the way we consume these things, it's very easy to put everything in the same box. Do you get? It's very easy to. And I was like, oh, I didn't know the story behind not just the jerseys, but the color, the print, everything. It was highly intentional. And is that what separates content from art, or is it the consumption? Do you get? It's been so hard for me to put out work on IG recently, or anywhere really, anywhere on the internet, even sesh gone. While if like, I don't know if you guys know, but I've had to had, I've had to have, Oyinbo. Oh yeah, now. I've had to have difficult conversations with people like Wolf, Ebenezer, some of the guys, basically like about this pod thing, about how sometimes it feels like a stretch. Sometimes I feel like I'm just chatting and they're like, oh, no, it's fine. You can swag it regardless. I'm using this as sort of like a season closer for some time now, So you can see that everything is relaxed, laid back. I am relaxed. I am laid back. And before you start judging, this is what I look like on an average day. Sometimes, depending on how average the day is. You get. I have a problem with how we perceive as art versus content thing. I think I'm honestly, I think I'm too proud. I think it's a pride thing for me
He make me proud. He make me proud, proudly.
because I consider myself a true artist as opposed to like a content creator. I told someone recently that if I was more adept at swallowing certain things, like some of my peers in, the photography space, the videography space, cinematography, all that stuff, graphic design, graphic art, all that stuff. If I was more like them, then I don't think I'd be having certain kinds of trouble. But I'm not like them, and I'm not sure I want to be like them. This world is really all about discovering yourself. I mean, it's not all about it, but it's a serious, significant part. So I'm not of the opinion that, you should try to swag yourself after somebody else. But I do think that like it was a bit funny because I posted it on my IG a couple months ago. I am not a content creator. And I didn't want to like, blacklist or blackball myself or like sort of draw like a line between me and them guys. But it really just it makes me uncomfortable. There are so many trends. How many trends can you chase really? Even the search, the way I make it, the way I put it out, it's like it really is up to you for real, for real, for real. So how do you push what you love? Honestly, man, I don't know. I'm not sure I want to know. I'm not sure I want to know. I'm grateful for all the backing that I've got, especially emotional. I mean, I want to say financial, but shout out to them guys, man. But like, I feel like it's more emotional because sometimes, like, you'll be feeling some type of way, and like, it's a simple conversation, really. And I remember, especially the ones that I have with Ebenezer and Muyo, respectively. Ebenezer Ogumbe, Muyo Sore Jolaolu. Very, very important. Like, I feel like between the two of them, and I think I want to add Augusta to that list for some reason. But like, I don't know. A little bit of Sheon Dada as well. See the way I'm name dropping these guys, man, it's crazy. But yeah, I don't want to. They do this thing where if I'm starting to have questions about the pod, maybe like I feel like I'm not controversial enough, or I'm not doing enough. I usually pick up the phone to call Ebenezer on some random stuff. And I'm like, yo, what are you doing? And then we chat and then we talk. And then you start to realize that regardless of whatever playing field you're playing in, the struggle is still the same. Everybody's trying to achieve something. Everybody's trying to make something of themselves. You know, this way, that way, that way. Everybody's just trying to make sense of life, really. And I've always had theory that like life and art, life is art. You know, You know when they say life imitates art, I've always thought that great the great pilgrimage to that, or the great way to swag that, is to like assume you're in a movie. You know, assume that everything you've done, everything you will do, will be read retrospectively. Imagine that. You know, imagine everything read retrospectively. I was watching this episode of a pod, and they were interviewing someone, and he was like, "I'm not tripping over it because it's going to be lame 10 years from now." And I think that's such, like, it's so pertinent to what I'm trying to say. If you're if whatever it is that you're making is not going to stand the true test of time, then yeah, I don't want to say there's no point in doing it, but I mean, what are you doing it for? The problem, especially with photographers now, is, and this might be the first time I'm talking about photography on the pod, is that, you know, for when we're trying to take pictures and we're trying to create art, da 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 da, whether it's quote unquote candid, whether you're capturing the moment or creating the moment, it's always been like a um mouth first, stomach last, brain not even included type package. Many of them are just trying to create something so that they can deal with an immediate problem. And by and large, luckily, unfortunately for me, I've not had to deal with certain problems. I'm not married. As at the time you are watching this, depending on whenever you are watching this, I'm not married. So me, I don't have children and family to feed. So me, I don't have to hustle as hard as some people. That's why me, I don't have to quote unquote create content. I don't have to. I create what I'm creating from a level of comfortability, to be very honest. Sesh to comfortability, you get. And I feel like that's where true art comes from. Even if you are suffering, as long as you are creating it from that source. But the problem with that is, after some time, you start to feel like it defines you. And you don't want that. You don't want it to feel like it's defining you. So, you know, but yeah, true art comes from a place where it's like you have to tap into something you are, as opposed to something you are not. I don't know, man. I've had okay. I remember I keep bringing Augusta up. I think we had like this essay poem thing where we were like having convos back and forth, and I was like, I think she was like, oh, yeah, basically that was the topic. I'm not a content creator, but I don't. If you are, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, in and of itself, it's like a new kind of art. We're living in, tw- what might just be the intro to the 22nd century, and I don't know. Everything is so new. Everything is so novel, nouvelle-ish. Research is not complete. Swagger doesn't drop a new word now. Everything is so sparkling, and everybody's trying to hop on the wave because people don't want to be left behind. Oh, where were you when so and so happened? Everybody's trying to do um, they're trying to do that Bill Gates thing, that Apple thing. Where, oh, I'm an early investor. I'm one of them guys. I'm one of them ones who bought early. I'm like, really, nigga. Like, I mean, pray for guidance. So 110%. Pray for inspo, but like I've never been one to chase cheap thrills because I believe that ultimately it is a cheap thrill. I feel like these other guys will not let that happen again, where a company will go from nothing and nobody to being as powerful as like the Metas and the Apples and them guys. I don't think they'll let that happen again. If it's going to happen again, it's going to happen on a such a and Jesus turned water to wine. Oh, that's how I make things wet. That's what she said. But yeah, I don't think it'll happen again. I think if you really want to create something, whatever it is, really, I feel like it has to come from a place of honesty. I feel like that's the true uh separator or separating factor. How honest you are in telling these stories. I just don't like content because it's so easily consumable, so and so quickly forgotten. That's my problem with content. Or you have to sit down, there's layers to it, etc. etc. And people might not necessarily glean as many layers as possible. You know, art leaves art is created and left for interpretation. And content is, I don't know. You are told the interpretation or you are sold on the interpretation. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense. But I'll try and leave it there. Hold on. I'll try and leave it there. I'll try not to swag it too much. But I have been in my head though about it for some time now. Like really, what are them man doing? Them man there. It's crazy. So ladies and gentlemen, let me see if I can officially close uh, the season, I guess. For the people who keep asking how it felt to be live on radio, it was, I'm using this to end this. Not only did I learn about myself, I feel like I learned about, world in quick time. I learned that first of all, just people. Like these things happen really fast. Someone was asking me like, "Yo, give me like the high points, give me the interesting." But I'm like, "There's really no interesting part. I'm a really calm person. Oh, I like to believe that I'm a calm person. You know, I could give you like a play-by-play, rundown, but really, plenty talk no dey full basket. If you want to know what it feels like to be on radio, you should go. You should be on radio. It's nerves of the highest order, man. But still, I mean, you swag it regardless. And unlike what we do here, you can't return to it. You can't like play back. I think a couple people made a few recordings of it, but I don't know. I don't think it'll be as live. It was so quick. There were so many questions. More questions than I had anticipated, which is crazy because I had been sent the script earlier. I can think like a day or two earlier, and I didn't go through it. I didn't want to go through it, because I wanted it to be as real and as authentic as recording one of these things. Or at least that's what people like to say. Oh my God, you sound so free when you record sesh. You get. So I think I just had like, I skimmed through it. I went through it as quickly as possible. Not trying to absorb too many questions. Like, oh, okay, so I understand the general direction that we're going when we're recording this thing. And during the broadcast, questions kept coming up. People were blowing my line. And I promise, if you texted me at that point or called me, I think I saw it. I think I saw it. I most likely did. Some of you are abnormal. You are not okay. Because why are you bombing my line? For the love of God, why are you bombing my line?
It's not normal. It's not that normal to do.
My cousin, shout out to Unusual Kitchen. My cousin was like, I'm calling the line and the radio station is not picking. I said, why will they pick? When you're here to sabotage me, you call me now, you start screaming my middle name. So millions and millions of fans worldwide. But I don't know. It's the start of a great thing, I guess. But then again, I feel like it really isn't because that's not where the thing started, you know? And it's definitely not going to plateau there. So we're in the field, man. We're running laps. We're running laps. So, oh yeah, so that's that on that. This is August, both the event and the occasion. So I'll just end it with this, right? I feel like reading something. I'm always reading something. But I don't want to leave you niggas dolo, so let me quickly like read something from one of the pages or something that one of the guys wrote, I guess. Maybe something James wrote. He's always writing something. Oh, James, I love you so much. We miss you. Every James is an ashawo.
Abi Ashawo.
Every James even HBK. I can imagine. So I'm going through our correspondence now, and you will not believe. You know what? I think I need to wipe this message before the ESCC says it. Hmm. This is by Emmanuel Prince James again. I think this is like the second of his poems or the third I'm reading on the pod. So he writes very adeptly. Is that a word? Adeptly. He writes very well. You will ask if it gets better. I'll tell you yes. It gets better. Not life, but the way we stitch the corpse of our hopes into something worth wearing on our skin. I'll tell you we get better at breathing life into our bones. Another one. I'm still searching for the grace I buried all those years ago beneath my childhood home. My parents carved our names across their hearts, so we'd know that home was actually a person willing to bleed for you. While you wait for courage, you miss out on a life that needed only to be lived with unsteady hands. No be lie. I think I've even read that before. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, book, Bible, movie, Fantastic Four. I think that should be out. Fantastic. Yeah, yeah. I mean, most people should have seen it by now, but I don't really know. I haven't enjoyed Marvel in a long time. Marvel has been boring. The after Avengers, was it Endgame? I think even before Endgame, I think I sort of got tired of it before Endgame. They don't make good movies. Marvel doesn't make good movies. Um, Controversia. But yeah, Avengers and so no, Fantastic Four series. I'm still watching Arrested Development. It's giving me it's some of the best writing I've seen in a while from a comedy series, and it's crazy because I think it aired in like 2009, right? Yeah, yeah. Shout out to Chambang. He made me go back to watch it because I watched like the first three seasons, and I wasn't digging it. I wasn't a fan. I got so tired of the. It felt very childish, which is crazy because it's like a running joke in the show how childish the show is and the characters, etc. Which is why it's called Arrested Development. You should Google that. Arrested Development and what it means. So yeah. Let me see. Song Swing My Way by Offset. Album JID. God Does Like Ugly. It's a strong contender for album of the year. I think Clips. I think Clips is Let God Sort Them Out is probably like higher on that list, but you know, the JID album had like a pre-album. I think it was an EP. Like they called it a Prelux, and it had Eminem on it, and that's like the Animals Part One track, and the song is bonkers, man. It's the first time in a long time that like Eminem has swallowed the song pause, and it's been like I grew up Muslim, so it's like yo, it's good to hear like Eminem back in that bag, which is like funny because in a lot of ways he's probably the oldest, most responsible rapper from like the 90s. You get he's like a grandfather for all intents and purposes. You get he is a father, so I'm sorry, I say father, a grandfather. My favorite artist or my favorite rapper is a grandfather, and he's in his 50s and he's dropping songs. He's rapping like he's in his 20s. Don't be thirsty, be hungry. Ladies and gentlemen, shalom.